Unveiling the Sinister Midnight Visitor, the cursed legend of the haunted Charro Negro. Elena's heart pounded in her chest as she returned home from another grueling night shift at the hospital. Shadows loomed large and menacing along the dimly lit streets of her struggling San Antonio suburb. The air hung heavy with dread, the kind you could almost touch. She hustled her two little ones inside, sensing something was off. Days turned to weeks, and soon, peaceful nights morphed into long, suffocating rounds of whispers and foreboding shadows creeping over her walls. The night that brought shadows also brought the fear, the legend of Charro Negro, a dark figure rumored to haunt those who dared step into the night alone. Something in the neighborhood changed. Once warm greetings became silent nods, doors that swung wide now creaked shut, and laughter echoed only in the distance, twisted by the unease that settled over everyone. As she sat at the kitchen table, rubbing her tired eyes, she could hear the cacophony of crickets outside. It felt like the world outside was alive, yet all she sensed was deathly quiet. She watched Miguel and Sofia playing a game, their laughter oddly muted now. Then Miguel told her about the man in black, the stranger he claimed to see while playing outside. His voice quivered as he shared about the tall shadow lurking by the old oak tree, long fingers brushing against the bark. Ignoring the foreboding chill creeping down her spine, she dismissed it as a child's imagination, but when she returned from a long shift one night to find Miguel gone, panic gripped her throat. The house felt empty, a hollow echo of what was once filled with innocent joys. Fear coursed through her veins like ice, and she raced through the darkened streets, calling his name until her throat burned. The local police shrugged off her frantic concerns, their eyes glazed over with indifference. A few neighbors, upon hearing her frantic plea, glanced away, murmuring warnings of the Charro Negro. As she ran, trembling hands searching every shadow, her instincts screamed that something sinister lurked in the dark. Broken families dotted the edges of her neighborhood, their stories blending together into a horrifying tapestry of sorrow, lost children and silent screams. She stumbled across whispers exchanged behind tightly closed doors. Disgust flickered in her gut as Elena realized this wasn't just an innocent urban legend, it was a malignant specter infecting their lives, and her community was suffocating under its grip. She barely grasped for hope when she gathered the courage to confront the Charro Negro. Town gossip painted the figure as an inky shadow wrapped in darkness. As the sun slipped below the horizon, Elena could feel the weight of betrayal from those who were supposed to protect her and her children. Fear pumped through her veins until she heard it, the laughter of her son, warped and disconcerting, ringing in the still air like a cruel joke. It was so close, so near yet too far. She was running out of time. What lay ahead promised only dread, but she had to save Miguel. There was no turning back. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. It felt like the darkness consumed her as she pushed onward into the depths of despair. One desperate breath after another, knowing each step could lead to either salvation or doom. Just then, a swift gust of cold air brushed against her neck, sending shivers running down her spine. She stood frozen, eyes darting around each corner, her heart threatening to leap from her chest. The shadows whispered her name. Elena's skin prickled as the air thickened around her, the unnerving whispers wrapping tightly against her. She gripped the railing of the old porch, the wood slick and damp under her clammy hands. The scent of earth and decay flooded her nostrils, a harsh reminder that she was not alone. A flicker in the corner of her eye pulled her attention. There, by the oak tree, a silhouette flickered and danced in the starlight, a figure clad in deep black. Her pulse quickened as she took a step back, but the urge to move forward remained. She forced her legs to carry her toward the tree, heart racing, thoughts spiraling into chaos. Was this the Charro Negro? Miguel! She shouted, voice trembling with fear and hope. "Where are you?" The laughter, that warped echo of her son, floated back, pulling her inexorably closer, but it twisted her stomach into knots. It was laughing with her, mocking her desperation. She arrived at the ancient tree, its gnarled trunk ominous and wide. She pressed a palm against its rough surface, peering into the inky darkness. The shadows seemed to pull away as if avoiding her gaze, revealing a sudden stillness. Everything was quiet now, only her breath echoing back at her. "Miguel!" She cried again, fear cleaving through her. The shadows shifted, and she sensed the presence lurking just beyond her view. A raspy voice seeped out from the darkness, inches away yet impossible to see. "He's close," it whispered, a malicious taunt that sent waves of dread coursing through her. "But you'll never reach him." Elena's heart dropped. "What do you want?" She struggled to keep her voice steady. The idea of leaving without her son was unbearable, crushing. "Sacrifice," it murmured. "Loyalty in exchange for the lost, a game you will never win." She felt heaviness in the air, like a storm brewing, and her breath quickened. How did it know her name? How did it know her pain? In a flash, movement caught her eye, and she turned. An impossibly tall figure stepped into the moonlight. Long fingers reached toward her, twisting in a grotesque imitation of a welcoming gesture. The Charro Negro, in all its terror, stood before her. Its face was obscured by shadows, but the emptiness in its eyes pulled at her very soul. Elena stumbled backward, gasping, a deep-seated terror clawing at her sanity. The darkness pulsed around the figure, drawing her mind into a void. She blinked rapidly, tears streaming down her face, as an overwhelming sense of desperation washed over her. "Miguel! You need to fight!" She sobbed, desperation turning her voice into a howl against the void. She could feel it wrapping around her, inviting her closer to the abyss. With every ounce of strength, she turned to flee, feet pounding against the dirt as the shadows howled behind her. The laughter twisted into her ears, shrill and sinister, echoing, blending into the screams of lost souls. "Join us," it taunted, as she sprinted back toward the house, each step an expression of her will to survive. The streetlights flickered as she reached her doorstep, but her heart sank as she reached for the doorknob. A sense of finality loomed. Would she truly find her son inside, or would she step into the heart of the beast that had taken him? "Please, please," she prayed under her breath, bracing for whatever lay beyond that door. In that moment, she realized she had no allies left. What awaited her in the stillness was an unknown terror, but now, she wasn't just fighting for herself. She had to confront the darkness, or lose everything. The house let out a groan, its creaking walls bidding her to step inside. As the door swung open, the air shifted. Her determination surged, yet fear clawed at her throat. What if Miguel was on the other side, trapped in the same web of shadows? What price had she unwittingly agreed to pay? And in the depths of the house, she heard it, a soft, playful laugh, an echo of her son, tangled in the darkness. Would it lead her to him or to the brink of her own despair? What she didn't know was how far the shadows were willing to go to keep their prize. The door creaked open slowly, its protest against the darkness that engulfed her like a heavy shroud. Elena hesitated, the laughter echoing too sweetly in the hall, taunting her as shadows flickered and danced at the edges of her vision. Every nerve screamed to turn back, but she steadied herself, forcing one foot, then another, into the uncertain gloom. "Miguel!" She called again, her voice echoing into the chilly stillness. It felt like calling into a void, but she had to try. She had to reach him. The laughter mingled with the haunting silence, each giggle fluttering like a moth to flame. Despair clawed at her as she moved deeper. Was that her son's laughter? Or was it yet another cruel trick of the Charro Negro? With every step, Elena felt the weight of the house pressing down on her. The wallpaper peeled like dead skin, and shadows whispered secrets too dark to be heard. The air was thick with a choking humidity, ripe with the musty aroma of neglect. "Miguel?" she whispered. "Can you hear me?" No answer, only darkness listened. The kind of darkness that hungers. As she ventured forward, she caught glimpses of movement, threads of shadow slipping under doorways, darting just out of sight. Her heart thudded in her chest like a drum, echoing the frantic rhythm of her breath. Each corner turned felt like a descent into an endless nightmare, the glow of her cell phone screen proving less than comforting, illuminating the twisted faces in the wallpaper that seemed to leer and leer. Then she saw a flicker of light behind the door at the end of the hallway. It pulsed softly, almost inviting, as if promising hope. Elena's heart quickened, a tether of optimism pulling her closer. She went for the doorknob, its cool metal beneath her fingers suddenly too hard to touch. Just one turn, she urged herself, her voice trembling. Just one turn, and you'll find him. The door swung open on its own accord, revealing a dimly lit room. A lopsided cradle sat in the middle. The air was thick, and a familiar scent wafted in, Miguel's favorite baby powder mixed with something altered, slightly rancid, as if time had twisted the essence of who he was. "Miguel?" she whispered, stepping inside with her heart lodged tightly in her throat. The shadows seemed to recoil at her entry, drawn to a single point in the room, a small, shadowy figure huddled in the cradle. "Mommy!" A voice, sweet and innocent, rang out, sending warmth through her core. But as if a switch had flipped, it morphed into a sinister laugh, stretching until it broke into discord. "No! Stay away!" she screamed, recognizing too late the trap. The figure twisted into a monstrous version of her son, a cruel parody of the warmth she sought. The laughter shrieked, wrapping around her head like a vice, invaders in her mind, perverting her thoughts. "You can't save him now," it hissed, echoes merging with the shadows of the room. "He belongs to me." Elena stumbled backward, eyes darting away from the cradle, from the figure that twisted reality. She turned to flee, but the darkness surged forward, vines of shadow entwined her legs, dragging her into the room. "No! Miguel!" she cried, the last shred of hope slipping away. The corridor she had come from darkened, consuming the flickering light of her cell phone as the walls of the house began to close in, fed by the very essence of her fear. Suddenly, she felt a spark, a brush of warmth against her skin. It flickered and faded, but it was enough. In the distance, she realized there was another presence, an otherworldly glow peeking from behind a door across the hallway. Something else was waiting, but Elena was paralyzed, the laughter wrapping around her like a net. The Charro Negro loomed ever closer, excitement radiating from its form. "You've played your hand, dear Elena. Are you prepared to gamble everything for a shadow?" Heart hammering, she realized the stakes at play. Would she be able to grasp the light piercing through the shadows, or would she succumb to the darkness, forever lost? As the laughter echoed like a funeral dirge, she knew one thing for sure. There were decisions to be made, and they would define not only her fate but Miguel's as well. Would she dare to choose a path through the impending doom, or would she retreat into despair, sealing their destinies in shadow? The pressure built, the shadows pressing in as she fought against the pull, but time was running out. The choice, looming before her like the dark figure itself, demanded an answer. But could she break free in time to save them both? Something deep within her stirred, a desperate urge to thrust through the darkness. Elena clenched her fists, and with a howl of adrenaline, she yanked her leg free from the grasping shadows. Surging with newfound energy, she pivoted toward the door that glowed like a beacon. "Miguel!" she screamed again, her voice raw and rough. This time, though, she ran. Each step felt electric, igniting her hope as she broke into a sprint. The laughter faded momentarily behind her, as if even the Charro Negro was caught off guard by her fierce determination. The door loomed closer, the light growing brighter, swirling with colors that painted the walls like fireflies against the irrepressible night. With each swift heartbeat, the shadows recoiled, retreating like water spilling away from a flame. Elena reached the door and flung it open with a force that sent it crashing against the wall. The light enveloped her, spilling warmth over her skin as she staggered inside. This room was different, its walls glistened, adorned with shimmering glyphs that seemed to dance, twinkling with a promise of safety. As she crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind her. She spun around in panic, her breath hitching in her throat, expecting the darkness to plunge in after her. But instead, she stood in the eye of the storm, an oasis amid a tempest. A marble table sat in the center, and on it lay a book, ancient and vast, its pages fluttering as if alive. "Mama?" The voice trickled from a shadow in the corner, small and fragile. Elena's heart surged. She turned toward it, desperate yet fearful. "Miguel?" she cried, hope igniting. "Where are you?" But the figure in the corner lingered, shrouded in gloom. It was hard to make out. When it stepped into the light, her heart sank. The boy's eyes were dark, void and empty, as if they held no reflection, no innocence. Something served as a twisted remnant of her son. "Help me," it whimpered, the voice breaking into static, a mockery of a plea. He won't let me go." Elena felt dread bloom in her chest. What had happened to him? How could this be? Behind her, a growl reverberated through the room, a sound that rippled like thunder. The glow of the glyphs dimmed slightly, and the air thickened with dread, turning the warmth to ice. The Charro Negro's presence loomed just outside, a silhouette against the door. "Such a lovely choice, Elena," the dark figure crooned, its voice oozing malice. "But you cannot save him alone. There is a price for light in this world of shadows. You must choose what you value most, your son or your very soul." Her breaths quickened, panic clawing at her throat. How could she ever choose? Tears streamed down her cheeks as she felt the severed bond between her and Miguel, a thread taut with despair. The light from the glyphs flickered, almost sensing her turmoil. She turned back to the book on the table, instinct drawing her closer. Its pages were filled with horrifying images and tales of borrowed souls, of sacrifices made to darkness. The Charro Negro had taken so much. Could this volume offer a way to turn the tide? "Choose fast." The entity hissed, its shadow stretching like fingers eager to snatch her back to terror. Elena faltered, then grabbed the book, its weight heavy in her hands as if infused with the very essence of the trials it documented. "You'll let him go if I read this?" she shouted, her voice echoing against uncertainty. The Charro Negro's laughter rolled through the chamber, dark and festering. "Ah, true horror awaits as you dare to strike a deal. But remember, my dear, every choice births a path paved in shadows." With trembling hands, she opened the book to the first page, a page that crackled with ancient magic and sinister promise. Elena felt the air shift, both welcoming and foreboding. The shadows spiraled around her as the glyphs flared, illuminating her choice. Would she dare to read what could change everything? Was it worth the risk to save Miguel, even if it meant trading pieces of herself for the light? Time was slipping away. Would she unveil the true price of salvation? The pages of the book flared with an ominous light, illuminating the intricate glyphs that danced across the walls. Elena felt the pull of ancient magic envelop her like a tightening noose, the air buzzing with expectancy. Shadows twisted at the edges of her vision, slinking away from the radiant glow, but the Charro Negro's presence remained a palpable weight outside the door, malevolent and patient. "Miguel," she whispered, her voice trembling. The figure mimicking her son stood a mere few steps from her, its hollow gaze tearing at her heart, a constant reminder of what hung in the balance. "Please, I'll save you." The boy's form flickered like a flame about to extinguish, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mama, you have to hurry." Pressing her palm against the book's cover, Elena felt the chill of dread and the warmth of desperation meld into something wild and frantic. She opened it, and the pages rustled as if beckoning her into a dark fraternity of secrets. Her eye caught a drawing, a black silhouette of a man with a sinister smile, surrounded by mournful orbs that looked like lost souls. "Read it aloud." The Charro Negro's voice slithered from the shadows, low and enticing. "Let the echoes of despair carry you to the truth of your choice." Elena's heart raced. Ignoring the flutter of fear, she scanned the text, her voice quaking but determined. "In the depths of darkness lies the price of salvation, a soul exchanged for the light." The room quaked as echoes roared in response. The glyphs on the wall pulsed and throbbed, casting frenzied shadows that danced like banshees hungry for release. The air thickened, pressing against her chest as if the very essence of dread sought to bury her alive. "Stop!" Miguel shrieked, his voice splintering apart with anxiety. "Don't listen. It's a trap." Luncie's screams mixed with the haunting laughter of the Charro Negro, reverberating against the chamber. "How long can you waver? Your son is already lost to the shadows. Let me take your soul, and you can save him." Elena felt the weight of grief crash over her. Each word she read unleashed fragments of regret, unleashed memories tied to dark chains that threatened to drag her under. Did she truly believe that she could fight this darkness with mere words? Still, instinct fought hard against despair. "No. I choose light." Her voice cut through the thunder like a knife, steady and fierce. As she spoke, the book erupted in a cacophony of shadows, screeching and howling as if it rejected her defiance. The glyphs blazed brilliantly, a counterpoint to the encroaching darkness. "Foolish woman!" The Charro Negro howled, his silhouette shaking with rage. "You think your trivial will can outmatch a pact older than time itself?" "No!" Elena screamed, adrenaline pouring through her veins. "I want to let you take him." The figure of her son flickered, yearning for her. Suddenly, the glowing glyphs shifted, forming a portal of swirling light that stretched wide enough to swallow the shadows whole. Miguel's voice broke through the chaos, stronger now. "Mama! Come to me." With a heart more fraught than ever, Elena took a step toward the portal, wind swirling around her like a tempest. The light beckoned but the shadows lashed out, slithering across the floor, desperate to cling to her, to pull her back. She was caught in a battle between her will and the chains of the abyss. What if she failed? Would this light trap her too? A chilling laugh echoed through the room, filling her with icy dread, as the Charro Negro's figure loomed closer behind. "Did you think it would be that easy?" He sneered, his form writhing with malice and rage. "You've signed your fate." Elena closed her eyes, breathing deeply, summoning every ounce of strength she had. She forced out the words of the ritual etched in her memory, hoping it would anchor her through the vortex of chaos swirling around her. "By light and shadow, I reclaim what is mine." With a deafening roar, the air crackled as magic surged, feeding off her resolve. Would the truth be her salvation or her undoing? In that moment, the fate of both mother and son teetered on the edge, and the shadows screamed louder than they ever had before. A blinding light exploded from the portal, sending tendrils of warmth spiraling through the oppressive cold. Elena felt an urge to plunge into it, but terror rooted her to the ground. The shadowy arms of the Charro Negro reached for her, clawing at her resolve. "Mama!" Miguel's voice echoed like a siren, pure and filled with desperation. The flicker of his image created a chilling dichotomy against the encroaching dark, light and hope battling against despair. As she teetered on the brink, the Charro Negro lunged forward, his figure morphing into a swarming mass of gnarled limbs, each one dripping with dread. "Fool! That portal won't save you. It seeks to devour just as much as I do." His laughter boomed, shaking her senses, filling her mind with shame and fear. It felt familiar, like the echoes of a lost childhood, the kind of terror that turns sitting beneath the covers into a life-or-death battle, but deep inside, ripe and fertile like a seed waiting for rain, the belief in a mother's love stirred. "I will not let you take him." The words pierced through the noise, unwavering. With a surge of strength, she stepped into the light. The moment she crossed the threshold, the shadows screeched, retreating like surging waves against the shore. The portal enveloped her in its brilliance, filling her with energy. Miguel's figure solidified, and she reached out for him, desperate to pull him closer, but just as her fingertips brushed his hand, darkness crashed into the light with a violent crack. The Charro Negro was relentless, pulling energy from all corners of the room, snatching at the light with greed. A cacophony of tormented screams pierced through the air as figures of anguished souls materialized around them, bound to him by an unseen thread. "Elena!" Miguel cried, his visage flickering again, and she felt the cool grasp of despair brush against her. "It's too powerful. We need to stay with me. She shrieked, the panic splintering her thoughts. The ground trembled beneath them, fissures snaking across the floor like serpents. By light and shadow, hear my plea. Elena shouted, pushing the words from her heart, desperate. Let the truth guide us to freedom. The light around her intensified, pushing back the shadows, but the Charro Negro howled a sound that rattled her bones. You think your pleas can unbind me? You're merely breathing life into your demise. But instead of fear, a strange calm settled over Elena. Images of all that mattered flooded her mind, laughter shared, tears wiped away, promises made. Each memory like an anchor, pulling her deeper into this relentless magic. The portal surged with brilliant energy, pulsating wildly. Elena felt it resonate with every fiber of her being. She turned to Miguel, determination etched on her face. We can do this together. Just hold on. The moment her fingers clasped his, a surge of warmth enveloped them both, a vivid light bursting outward, splintering through the shadow like a shard of hope piercing the dark veil of night. But the Charro Negro, infuriated, launched himself with the ferocity of a storm, dark and maddened. You will regret this, foolish woman. Your defiance will be your undoing. You don't know what you're unleashing. Before she could respond, a violent shockwave erupted, flinging them back. The portal flickered, and as the light waned, Elena felt the ground shift beneath her, treacherous and alive. She and Miguel were thrown apart, spiraling into a chasm of darkness even as the portal, her only hope, collapsed in on itself. No! She screamed, reaching out, but the distance stretched impossibly wide. Shadows wriggled around her, gnashing and biting. Their laughter mingled with her cries as tendrils wrapped tightly around her legs, pulling her down into the abyss. Choose wisely, Elena. A mocking voice echoed, fear dripping from each syllable, the Charro Negro's presence smothering her like smoke. What else on the other side may not be worth saving? Caught in the throes of chaos, doubts clawed at her. What did she truly want, to save her son or escape the shadows that threatened to consume her? With a jolt, she realized she might have to make a choice even darker than the one she faced before. Could she truly save them both? The swirling darkness whispered questions that could lead them either to salvation or eternal damnation. Time was running out. Elena's heart raced, the cold tendrils dragging at her flesh like icy fingers. She felt the suffocating grasp of despair tightening around her, but the image of Miguel pulled her back. What would he think if she gave in? What would she think of herself? Mom! His voice cut through the gloom, thin and distant yet as powerful as a thunderclap. Don't let him win. The darkness pulsed, alive and writhing, mocking her with its insistent whisper. She clenched her fists, determined to fight back. The shadows laughed, a cruel symphony that echoed her fear. The Charro Negro's voice melded into their jeering, promising a fate worse than death, an eternity tethered to torment. No! She screamed back, defiance fueling her, warming her soul amidst the chill. I will not be your puppet. With every ounce of will she could muster, she fought against the descent. The shadows hissed, recoiling as if scorched. Her memories sparkled in her mind, bright fragments burning in the depths of darkness. The laughter of family gatherings, the warmth of Miguel's hugs, each thought flickered like a candle in the overwhelming blackness. Then she felt it, a pulse of energy coursing through her. It tied her to the portal. Not just her will, but her love. It elongated the threads of connection, drawing them tighter across the rift dividing her from Miguel. Mama! His voice was now a beacon, guiding her through the chaos. She envisioned him, his small hands gripping hers, his face radiant with trust. I'm coming, Miguel. As she focused on him, the shadows seethed, recoiling with rage. You're a fool to think love can conquer all, the Charro Negro roared. His voice vibrated in the ground beneath her, each syllable a reminder of the havoc he had wrought. You'll unleash horrors you can't even begin to imagine. Elena clenched her teeth against the rising tide of fear, spitting out her words like fire. You're wrong. I know what I'm unleashing, a mother's love. A raw energy surged from her heart, igniting the air around her. She brought her hands together, forming a barrier of light, shimmering and flickering against the shadows. With fierce determination, she began to draw upon her memories, channeling their warmth into a protective shield. The Charro Negro stumbled back, snarling as the light burned through his shadowy figure. "This is but a moment of strength. You are still trapped." But his words were laced with panic. For a heartbeat, Elena thought she could see at the thin veil of fear in the monster's eyes. "Now!" she shouted, imagining Miguel beside her, skin warm with life, his laughter harmonizing with her defiance. The portal flickered to life one more time, surging with intensity. But just as hope glimmered, the ground quaked violently. Elena gasped as her knees buckled beneath her. She felt everything slipping again, the very fabric of her reality threatening to unravel. "Mama!" came Miguel's anguished cry, filling the void, pulling her back. She felt him reaching through the chaos, his spirit twining with her own. Their connection pulsed with life, battling against the darkness clawing at them. "I won't leave you," she cried, that promise lacing her voice with iron. "Together." But the Charro Negro hadn't finished yet. Swirling shadows engulfed her, clawing, gnashing at her skin like a swarm of hungry beasts. "You will regret this. The darker paths of this curse will consume you." As the shadows tightened their grip, she thought of every child who had ever looked up to a parent, every moment she wished to protect someone she loved. What would they do faced with this darkness? Would they choose survival at the cost of everything? The chasm yawned wide, threatening to swallow her whole. "Choose!" screamed the Charro Negro, his voice dripping with a sinister glee. "Save yourself, or save the boy." Panic surged within her, sweat dripped down her back. As the void clawed at her body and soul, the truth dawned. Was the price worth it? Was love powerful enough to defy fate? Time slipped away like sand through her fingers, and with one final push, she dove into the light, hoping against hope, but she felt the darkness tug, threatening to drag her away. "Do not falter, Elena," Miguel whispered in her mind, even as the shadows rippled with malice. But just then, amidst the chaos, a door creaked open somewhere in the blackness. What awaited her there could either be salvation or her worst nightmare. Did she have the strength to face it? Elena stumbled forward, her heart pounding as the door creaked wider. The air around her pulsed with a heavy energy, crackling like static. Shadows twisted and writhed, but the light from the door drew her in like a moth. She hesitated, dread bubbling beneath her skin. What if stepping through that threshold meant embracing the darkness instead? "Mama!" Miguel's voice rang out again, more desperate now. Every syllable cut through her like glass. The door beckoned, and Elena faltered for a second, wanting to run back to her son. But she had to see what stood beyond. With a deep breath, she forced herself forward, steadying her resolve. Each step felt like a weight pressing down on her, every inch drawing her closer to that luminous doorway. As she passed through, the oppressive shadows recoiled, hissing in quiet fury. What sacrifices lie beyond? The Charro Negro's voice taunted, echoing like thunder in her mind. You believe you are strong enough to face the truth? Inside the door, the world shifted. It was a dimly lit room, walls lined with jagged mirrors reflecting her own terror-stricken visage. Each shard of glass showed her different versions of herself, frightened, angry, haunted. Ghostly fingers seemed to reach from the edges, trying to pull her back into the depths of her despair. Light flickered as a soft glow coalesced at the center. There, a figure stood, a silhouette adorned in tattered black robes, his eyes burning like embers. "Welcome, Elena," he said, voice smooth and sinister. "You seek to save the boy, but is this what you really want?" A chill crawled up her spine. "What do you know about Miguel? Let me see my son," she demanded, voice shaking but fierce. The figure chuckled, the sound ringing hollow, echoing grotesquely off the mirrors. "You think this is mere coincidence? The Charro Negro is bound to you now, just as you are bound to him. The darkness feeds on your fear, your guilt. With each step you take, it grows stronger. As the words sunk in, Elena's heart seized with an icy grip. Memories flooded her mind, the moments she couldn't protect Miguel, the times she failed him as a parent. Was it true? Had she inadvertently given power to this malevolent force through her own weakness? Suddenly, one mirror shimmered brighter than the others. When Elena stepped closer, it shifted to a scene she recognized: Miguel, sitting alone in his room. His small body shook, he looked helpless, trapped in a cocoon of shadows. "Mama!" he cried again, hands trembling against the glass as he pressed his face to the mirror. Despair tore through Elena at the sight. "Help him!" she cried, desperation climbing. The figure reached an imperious hand toward her, and the darkness thickened, swirling around him like a tempest. "To save him, you must embrace the darkness within you. You must sacrifice your light." A thunderous growl erupted from behind her, the Charro Negro's voice echoing from the void. "You cannot save them both. Choose." Elena's breath quickened. The choice loomed before her like a haunting specter. Would she surrender her own light for a chance to save Miguel? Was she ready to become what she feared? "Do you truly believe that a mother's love can conquer darkness?" the figure whispered, shadows around him coiling tighter. "Mama! Please!" Miguel's voice shattered her resolve for a heartbeat. Fingers trembling, she reached out, her heart pounding to a wild rhythm. "I will not lose him," she declared. "I refuse." But as she spoke, the mirrors shattered, spilling endless shadows, each one a reflection of her darkest fears. The figure laughed amid the chaos, a piercing sound that rattled her soul. "Then let the reckoning begin." The shadows began to swirl, forming a threatening vortex around her. Deep inside, her strength wavered. Could she truly withstand what was coming? Would the cost of love doom her to an eternity of suffering and despair? The room pulsed with danger, and Elena gasped, fighting against the tide of darkness. She had to find her way back to Miguel, no matter the cost. And then, she saw him, his eyes wide with fear, that flicker of hope shining through the chaos. "Hold on, Miguel." But what lay at the heart of her determination was about to be unveiled, plunging them deeper into the unknown. The shadows spun violently, wrapping around Elena like iron chains. Fear snaked through her veins, tightening its grip. She screamed for Miguel, but her voice was swallowed by the darkness. "Mama!" It was a faint echo, distant and distorted. As if the void sought to silence his cries, the walls of the room pulsed in response to her panic. She stumbled backward, heart racing like a drum. "No. I want to let them take you." The figure in the tattered robes leaned closer, face now bathed in the eerie glow of the fractured reflections. "Every step deeper into this realm binds your fate to his. You carry the weight of your own fears. Can you endure it?" Elena's knees buckled. The mirrors whispered her sins, revealing memories buried deep. Each one clawed at her insides, dragging her down. Her heart thudded, the sound deafening against the suffocating silence. "Let go of the past, Elena," the figure coaxed, his voice like velvet laced with poison. "Only then can you save him." A shattering choice loomed ahead, dark and tempting. The truth lay just beyond reach, obscured by the chaos. Shadows writhed at her feet, whispering vile secrets. She pressed her fingers to her temple, fighting back the tears. "I want to abandon him," she screamed, words fueled by resolve. The figure's laughter cut through her layers of bravery, mocking. "Can you sacrifice the light you so cherish? The boy will suffer. It's your destiny." The vortex roared. Shadows stretched, clawed at her face, biting into her skin like icy needles. Behind her, the mirrors twisted, manifesting her failure's shame, betrayal, regret. Each slice drew blood from her conscience. Miguel. His name was a lifeline, but the darkness fought harder. Despair loomed heavy, sinking deep into her bones like lead. Choose. The Charro Negro's voice boomed, reverberating through the room. Will you join the darkness, or will you watch him perish? Stop it. Elena cried, clutching her head, torn between despair and resolve. Ghostly hands grasped at her ankles, trying to hoist her down. Mama, help me. Miguel's voice, small and frail, shattered the formation of shadows looming above her. The mirror shimmered again, revealing him more real, more vulnerable. He was slumped in his room, eyes wide and filled with terror. The shadows curled around him, menacing and alive, closing in like hungry wolves. Hold on, Miguel. She felt warmth flicker inside her chest, a brief flicker of hope. Just hold on. Taking a deep breath, she pushed against the suffocating tide. I will face this darkness. I won't give in. With furious determination, she stepped toward the swirling mass of shadows. As her foot pressed forward, something shifted. A blinding light burst forth, lighting up every crevice of the darkened room. The shadows shrieked, recoiling at the brightness as if burned. The room trembled and cracked, mirrors splintering until they crumbled to dust. The figure in the robed cloak faltered, confusion crossing his face. What? New warmth enveloped Elena, wrapping around her like an embrace. This light is not just mine, it's ours. She hollered, channeling the love she felt for Miguel. Mom! I can see you. Miguel's voice filled her ears like music, and she could see him too through the shimmer of emerging light. But then, a grimace crossed the figure's face. You think this is victory? He snarled, shadows swirling violently around him. The true test is yet to come. And just as quickly as the light pierced through the darkness, it began to dim, fading like a flickering candle. What have you done? The dark figure roared, vengeance seeping through every word. Elena felt the shadows lashing out, striking with furious force. Mama, no. And as darkness enveloped her, one thought pierced through the chaos: this was just the beginning. When Elena blinked, she found herself back in her own reality, standing in the middle of their dimly lit living room. But everything felt different. The air crackled with tension, and the light flickered ominously. Miguel? She gasped, scanning the room frantically, but he was gone, faded into thin air, leaving only a chilling silence and the echo of shadowy laughter. Had she truly escaped? Or had the Charro Negro woven her deeper into his dark web? The darkness outside whispered her name, pulling her back into its sinister embrace. And she knew the next encounter was just waiting to unfold. Where are you, little light? A voice slithered from the corner of the room. The shadows coiled tight once more, beckoning her into an uncharted nightmare. Elena's breath hitched in her throat, a desperate gasp fighting to escape her lips. The chill of the room wrapped around her like ice, and she stumbled backward, heart racing as the shadows danced around her. Panic surged within. Miguel! She cried, voice breaking with fear, echoing off the walls, empty now without the joyous laughter they once carried, but the house remained silent, its dark corners thick with an oppressive weight that gnawed at her resolve. Nightmarish laughter rippled through the air, whispering promises woven with despair. The figure of the Charro Negro loomed, a dark stain in her mind, as relentless as a shadow cast by a dying light. She felt it lurking in the corners, hungry for her weakness, eager to claim what little light remained. Elena, it called, voice silky yet chilling. Did you think you could escape so easily? The price has yet to be paid. She was trembling, gripping the edge of the dusty table, nails digging into the wood. She had fought with everything left in her to reclaim Miguel. How could she have ended up back in this suffocating hell? Elena closed her eyes, wishing, praying for her son to come back, to step out of the shadows and back into her arms, but it was empty. Only darkness answered. For a moment, despair enveloped her, tears pooling in her eyes, choking on her sorrow. Yet beneath that sadness, a flicker of rage ignited. No. She breathed, energy surging anew. You don't own me. You don't own him. Suddenly, everything became clear. The connection she felt, the bond to Miguel, it pulsed deep within her, stronger than any darkness. "You want a sacrifice?" She spat, fury curling around her words. "You want to feed on fear? Then you'll have to fight me because I will not let my son fall." The shadows shifted ominously, swirling like a storm gathering strength. "Foolish woman, you think love alone can defy me? Choose now or lose everything forever." It taunted, its voice thick with disdain. And in that moment, she realized the truth: the Charro Negro didn't just want her light, it thrived on the very essence of despair that clouded her heart. "Miguel." She called his name again, slicing through the air as if her voice could penetrate the veil of shadows surrounding her. Something flickered in the darkness. "Help me!" An echoing voice stirred, and Elena's heartbeat quickened. It couldn't be a trick. It was a sliver of hope, the sound of her son fighting against the bleak tide. "By love and loyalty, I choose to stand against you," she declared, clenching her fists and calling forth every fragment of warmth within her as a shield. The warmth surged like wildfire, igniting her spirit against the cold. Shadows crackled, retreating momentarily before launching forward with a terrible ferocity, but Elena met the dark force head-on. "I want to let you take him," she screamed, channeling her love into a vibrant shield of light. It felt like an armor as she thrust her hands forward, pooling all her memories: laughter shared, joy untainted, moments of connection all flashing before her eyes. With every image, the pulsating light grew, spilling into the room and illuminating the corners where shadows dared to linger. "Stay away from me. Stay away from my son." The shadows writhed, hissing, twisting in pain from the surge of light enveloping them. The Charro Negro bellowed, a primal cry echoing through the shaken house. "I will not be undone by your feeble heart. You are bound to me." The rage fueled her spirit, pushing her against the darkness. "No. Miguel is not yours." Elena surged forward, that bond of mother and son pulling her. The figure morphed and twisted, undead fingers grasping, but she wouldn't yield. The darkness faded as each step lit up under her determination, shadows retreating, screaming in fury, and then, with one final roar, the Charro Negro lunged, but Elena was ready. She thrust her hands up, channeling all that she had. "By love brighter than shadows." A blinding light exploded from her, consuming everything in its path. Light poured into every crevice, evaporating the darkness, burning away fear and despair. The house echoed with a final cry, a roar that echoed like thunder before collapsing into silence. Elena collapsed, breathing heavily, heart pounding in rapid rhythm. She rose to her feet and scanned the room. The shipyards of anguish were gone. The oppressive weight felt lifted. "Miguel." She called again, desperation still clinging, and then she saw him standing in the doorway, small and real, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and relief. "Mama." He rushed into her arms, collapsing against her, warmth flooding through as she crushed him tight, tears streamed down her face as she pulled back to look at him. "You're safe, you're really here." Their bond had withstood the tumult. They had faced the darkness and survived. Together, the house around them quieted, shadows dimming as sunlight streamed through the windows. "We did it," she whispered, holding him close. "We really did." They stepped into the light, hand in hand, a tether formed through love and the unbreakable bond of a mother's heart. The past loomed heavily behind her, but with Miguel beside her, they could face whatever came next. Elena looked back one last time at the remnants of darkness. This wasn't the end of it, she knew. Shadows lingered on the edges of life, always seeking to steal light. But she would never stop fighting for her son, for their future. Together, they would forge a path of love and hope. Now, go forth, remember this story, the tale of courage, hope, and love prevailing over darkness, and please, for the love of storytelling, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will tug at your heartstrings. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and keep the stories alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. Let us hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this thrilling conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.